Beautiful weather conditions and sunny skies once again greet us for day 2 of our race weekend, our away race weekend for the F4 Spanish Championship at Circuit Paul Ricard near Marseille in France. The racing yesterday was pretty frantic, some great results, some first times, both victory and podium finishes for our top 3 yesterday, and of course we're hoping for more of the same in today's action. Good morning everybody, Scott Wood was here to catch you through all of the action. Alex Garcia is down on the grid as well to have a chat to our drivers, 1 or 2 before the start. Yesterday's racing, plenty of activity, plenty of drama for 2 of the championship contenders. Lucas Fluscher didn't even make it off the grid in race number 1 after a damaged reel, which meant he'd scored no points. And also Chiane Alazari ran over some debris, and he, the championship leader, had to also pit and retire, meaning those 2 drivers are going to have to work very hard indeed, particularly with some salvation from their qualifying session this morning, to get themselves some good results as well. Cars are making their way around towards the grid, out of the pit lane, and we'll see if anyone can try and take a good victory as well. MP Motorsport, again, still pretty much in command towards the front of the field. But the man everyone's going to be watching for to try and make at least a good result is going to be the man in car number 14, Chiane Alazari. Of course, no points yesterday after he ran wide exiting the curb. I wasn't sure if he either ran over the curb too much and broke his front wing, or if he ran over the damaged front wing of Maximilian Restrepo, the Colombian driver, who lost his front wing a couple of laps earlier. So a very strong field as usual for Spanish F4. 35 cars, no less, for this weekend. And it has been, again, plenty of diversity on the grid this year. 23 different nationalities represented in Spanish F4 from almost all corners of the globe. From Europe, from the UK, also from the USA and Canada, South America, quite a few Asian drivers, and of course, some Eastern European drivers in the Eurasian part of the world. Even a couple of our oceanic friends from Australia. We even have, I believe, 1 or 2 drivers in the mix from Asia too. So, a bit of weaving going on, some burnouts going on to get a little bit more heat and pressure into the tyres and brakes. While they sit on the grid, you can see the umbrellas are out, but there's no rain in sight. It's purely to keep the drivers as cool as possible. The track temperature has risen since this morning's qualifying session. It is now at a scorching 36 degrees. Temperature's gone down slightly. It's now 22, 67% humidity, and there is now quite a high wind. It's now 13 kph winds in there too as well. So the 5-minute board was out, which means the cars are making their way around onto the grid. In terms of yesterday's result, we'll remind you, it was Mattia Colnaghi who was able to convert a strong qualifying into pole position and then into a race victory, his first win of the season, the Italian. James Zagozzi and Juan Cota had a great battle in the closing stages for second place, and Juan Cota actually pick up his first podium, as did also James Zagozzi, so the young American running under the Red Bull banner for Campos Racing. And Maciej Gladic, who started on pole, didn't have a great start, and then, well, he started to qualify 3rd, started 8th due to a 5th-place grid spot penalty from Portimao, and then was able to pick his way up to 4th place. And Esther Rivera was in P5 from Nathan Ty, Griffin Peebles, and then we had Thomas Stroud and Mattia Quintarelli and Thomas Gerhardt. Well, Alex Garcia is down there on the grid as well. Alex, good morning once again. I'll just ask you quickly, you've had a chance to think about things from overnight. Did you get to sample some of the locals' Paul Ricard beer, or are you full and fresh ready for today's 2 races here in Spanish F4?
Good morning. No, I chose to focus on the race because it has been very, very intense so far. So I thought it best to focus on seeing what these guys can do, when it comes to these last 2 races for today. But it is looking very intense as well. Temperature-wise, it is a little bit cooler than yesterday. It is true that it is earlier in the day. But so far it's 35 degrees on the track, on the circuit, on the tarmac. So I'm expecting a little bit less tire degradation. But on the other side, we have a little bit more wind. So that will mean that drivers will have to deal with that on the main straight, the main Mistral straight, and see how they deal with it. But we're trying to see if we have a chance to speak briefly with the pole sitter, with Mattia Colnaghi. And I think we might have a possibility to do it. Yep, there we go. Mattia, again in pole position. How is it looking for the race?
Feels good, and I guess we just try to pull away, get the win.
Thinking that you can pull ahead, just like you did yesterday? That's the goal?
Yeah, goal is to get a good start and to just pull away like yesterday.
All right, good luck. So those were the thoughts of Mattia Konagi. We saw yesterday he was doing a very, very good job pulling away from the group. So I think, as you heard him say, that's always the goal, that's always the objective. So I'm expecting that at least he will try for the first couple of corners to see if he can avoid getting challenged by any of the rivals. We saw that the first sector is particularly crucial, especially with the F-Force. It's quite likely that a good start can shake things a little bit.
Of course, two drivers we need to watch out for, of course, who had really poor fortunes yesterday in the opening couple of laps. One didn't even make it off the grid. Lucas Flusha and Kiana Al-Azari. No points for them in both races either. Top two in the championship coming into the weekend. How critical is race two going to be here today, particularly when they didn't score anything yesterday? Surely this is a race where they have to get some points on the board. Otherwise, their main rivals behind are going to take full advantage once again.
That was a huge upset of yesterday, so I'm expecting them to want to pull back and get a little bit a few points back, but at the same time they know that they have a 0. So taking extra risks today for the championship can be a little bit too risky. So they'll have to balance, how much risk they take. For me, that's the key.
Well, we'll see how that works out. Thanks for your efforts, Alex, on the grid once again. We'll catch up with you at the end of the race, and we'll see how that progresses. But as the cars head off onto the formation lap, let's take a look and see who lines up where. The grid set by the second fastest times from qualifying yesterday. So, Mattia Konagi, once again, gets a chance to take victory in his second race in a row. He'll start on pole position alongside Maciej Gladish, who's hoping for a better start this time from the front row of the grid. Then Keanu Al-Azari didn't score yesterday, has to get some points on the board for this weekend today. He starts with a great chance from the second row and third place, alongside his MP Motorsport teammate Griffin Peebles. 4 MP Motorsport cars in the top 4 spots. They really do have this championship so far currently on lockdown. Ernesto Rivera starts on the third row of the grid alongside James Agozzi, who took the podium yesterday. As Tulia Juan Cota, he starts in 7th place, and Matti Quintarelli starts in 8th for Santaloc. Then Thomas Strauven, who came into the weekend 3rd in the points, couldn't better yesterday in the race, a 8th position after he started outside the top 10. He starts this time from 9th, and then it's Jan Przejowski for Griffin Corbe Campos running up the top 10. Lucas Flusha, again, didn't even make it off the starting grid. He's got to be fired up to make some efforts from 11th on the grid. He starts on the 6th row alongside Nathan Tai. Then Andres Cardenas and Adam Hideg of Hungary starts on the 7th row of the grid. Gabriel Gomez and Mikael Pedersen then come next for TC Racing and DriveX. Then Tim Gerhardt and Randy Lammers for an all-Dutch 9th row of the grid, with Randy Lammers, of course, the young son of Jan Lammers. Running up the top 20, Enza Tarvanachikul and Adam Al-Azari making his single-seater debut. He starts again from P20. He got an excellent result yesterday as 15th for his first start. Can he get further up from the 10th row of the grid? Ivan David and Francisco Macedo are on the 11th row of the grid. Dube de Decker and Peter Buzanelos on row 12. Lenny Ried and Matthias Rieber on row 13. Row 14, after damage yesterday put him out of the race, was Maximiliano Restrepo and Christian Cantu. But it's Filippo Fiorentino and Rehan Hakim, and followed by Preston Lambert and Leah Block, of course, daughter of the late great Ken Block. She's also an F1 Academy talent, starting back in 32nd place. And then Victor Dobransky, Lorenzo Castillo and Alexander Jacobi rounds out the 35-car grid here at Paul Ricard. So Paul Ricard then, fantastic Grand Prix circuit itself. The full Grand Prix that they're using, 5.842 kilometres in length. That translates to 3.63 miles. In the course of the French Grand Prix, there are many other endurance races that have taken place over the season. It's also a Pro and F1 testing venue with corner types of all sorts. It's a great mixture of the long straights. That means that your straight line capability is also quite crucial. Also be a test of how much wing and downforce you put on the car, but also mechanical grip as well. And with track temperatures also getting pretty high as well, that's going to be pretty crucial. Of course, remember the track temperature 37 degrees, so it continues to go up. That will certainly have quite an effect. It is quite cooler in terms of air temperature. That'll certainly help with the engines, so maybe with some brake cooling, but with the tyres, what's a relatively quite, in some cases, abrasive circuit, particularly the runoff areas and over the curbs, that's going to be pretty tricky. So key drivers to watch out for. Mattia Konagi looking for his second win in a row. Keanu Al-Azari, two-time race winner, came into the weekend with a lead in the points of 28, but of course will have lost some due to his race from retirement. He has to get some points on the board in this race. Also watch for Agozzi and Cota for 6th and 7th, Strauven from 9th, and Lucas Flusha has to get further than the pit straight back in 11th. Green flag at the back of the field, 5 red lights, so for 25 minutes, race 2 of the F4 Spanish Championship is go. Good start for Kolnagi this time. With Gladish slotting in, but Alazari quickly to his inside line. He gets through to second place. They almost bang wheels. That would have been Griffin Peebles alongside Magic Gladish down towards turn 1. The Verari S-Bend, through they go, 2 and 3 abreast. It looks like they're going to get on just about cleanly. So Kolnagi leads them from the opening start of the race then. Alazari second. Gladish third. There's battles there. We've got, looks like that is Agozzi battling with Esther Rivera and Juan Cota as they turn their way through Virage de l'Hotel. Virage de Colt, one car running very wide over the runoff area. Didn't quite catch who that was, but we'll see where they rejoin in a minute. One of the MP Motorsport cars. I think it might be... Is it René Lammers possibly in 18th place? I think it is. René Lammers who dropped quite far back down the order. Onto the Mistral straight for the first time. Kolnagi leads. Alazari second. Maciek Gladic third. Peebles fourth. Rivera, Gozzi, Cota. They're all over each other with the mid-pan. Look at this. 2, 3 abreast. Down towards the chicane. Something's got to give here. Into the complex. MP Motorsport, Camposh, MP Motorsport in there too. You can see there is Maciek Gladic in third place. Peebles fourth. One car skipped the chicane also at the back, and 2 or 3 cars went across the chicane also. And a majority of them looked like they were Polo Motorsport cars, I think. No, possibly Technicar cars, I think, instead. Rest of the pack going through senior. Where do you find racing room in a pack of 35 Formula 4 cars? Agozzi on the tail of Rivera. It's Cota, Quintarelli, Przjovski, and Nathan Ty rounds out the top 10. Thomas Strauben has dropped 2 places from where he started in 11th. So from 9th on the grid down to outside the top 10. Someone's gone tumbling down the timing screen also. I think it might be Yvan David. Through the... Okay, who else is tumbling down? Adam Hideg has also gone down the timing screen just now on the left-hand side. Out of the Virage Dupont and onto the pit straight for the first time. So, Kolnagi leads. Alazari second. The gap between the top 2 is 1.4 seconds already. Gladish in third. Peebles fourth. Rivera in 5th position. Agozzi 6th. And 1 car's around already. Damn it, there's 2 cars involved, in fact. 3 cars. Goodness me. So 55 is involved. That is Preston Lambert. And the other 2 cars I can't quite catch is one of the Santalot cars, I think, on the right-hand side. Car 50 is also involved. And that's Tim Gerhardt. So a poor start for Tim. And that'll have to be at least a safety car. Medical car on standby just in case, as a pure precaution. So 3 cars tangled at the end. This is the start of the race. Clean start for Kolnagi. He went to the racing line straight away. Alazari to second place. Gladic tried to go with him, but he had to be careful not to be under threat from Griffin Peebles too much, who stuck his nose up the inside. And it was 3 abreast behind him, I think, between Rivera, Agozzi and Cota. Somehow they all came on top of that. And in fact, it's a red flag. Race has been stopped. There's all 3 cars in the middle of the track, right at the exit of the corner. It means that it's a pure obstruction. And I'm afraid racing has to be called to a halt. It's a shorter 25-minute race here in Spanish F4, so there's a small change in distribution of points. And so the only change really is that only the top 9 score points rather than the top 10. We lose the 25 points that you would score for a win in a half-an-hour race. This is a view of the camera here for what might have happened. It might have happened off camera. Let's have a look. Right, so Gerhardt goes around. Again, gets collected by... I didn't catch the other car that was involved, but then gets collected by the second car that went into that. And then, unfortunately, he got collected by initially Preston Lambert, and then the third car that went in, which looks like it was a Santalot car, was also involved in that. Now, I wonder if the timing screen might tell us who didn't come across the line. It might be Maximiliano Restrepo, and he's had a rotten weekend so far, given that he lost his front wing back there, just exiting the left-hander at the Virage de Bondor. As a result of that then led to, I think, his front wing being struck by Keanu Alazari, which then put him out of the race in turn. So unfortunately, it looks as though we've lost Tim Gerhardt, who had the spin, and it was Lambert that ended up clattering into him, and then Maximiliano Restrepo looks like he was left with nowhere to go. But I'm merely a commentator rather than a clerk of the course or a steward, so it's down to them to decide whose fault it was, if anyone's fault. So now this gives a chance for this driver just to, quite literally, cool off a little bit after that all-action start. It means that we'll regroup. And I imagine, because they didn't complete or can complete more than 2 laps, usually the rule is that they revert the grid back to its original starting order, which would mean that Mattia Colnaghi goes back to pole position alongside Maciej Gladish, with Keanu Alazari back to 3rd alongside Griffin Peoples. But we'll wait and see what the procedure is on that. So red flag here in race 2 at Paul Ricard for the F4 Spanish Championship. There's the reason. Tim Gerhardt's also involved Preston Lambert, and looks like Maximiliano Restrepo, given the fact that his name is at the bottom of the timing screen, and also the fact that his car is a Santa Lock car, and Santa Lock's colours are white and blue. So you put 2 and 2 together, and that suggests to me that sadly the Colombian has, I'm afraid, been caught up in that incident. This will be a bit of a reset. Don't know if maybe, I'm pure speculating here, if Alex Garcia might be down to have a chat maybe with 1 or 2 of the drivers during this break, possibly. If not, he might be sort of happily ensconced back in the media centre watching on everything that's happened. And that is Adam Hideg, who dropped down the order. And he had dropped down the pack a little bit in the first part, and they're also readying a new nose for somebody. I think that is for Adam or for somebody else. There is the 27 of Lucas Flusha. He's at least survived the first lap and got around 1 lap this time. He could make it off the start-finish line, barely left before he had damage. And that's the strategy. Keep cool whilst the team get to work on his car. And there's damage to his front section too. The damage to the nose of Lucas Flusha, that's happened somewhere around on that first lap. Flusha hasn't really had that much luck, has he? In qualifying, but also in that first race when he got damaged. This is how the first start happened then. So Colnaghi held on to the lead towards turn 1. There's the car that went off to the right-hand side around wide. I'm trying to catch it. It was one of the MP Motorsport cars. Then we had some scraps going on here for between 2 and 3 abreast. I wonder if Lucas Flusha was involved in some of that led to some of the damage on the front wing. Either that, or whether he dropped back and because Tim Gerhardt's made quite a decent start. Maybe the 2 of them were involved in that scuffle at the garage department that triggered it. There's look at that. That's 2 by 2, about 4 deep to the second part of the Bose. So lots of battles going on there. Very, very congested circuit. So 35 cars in there. Comes up for Matus Reba for DriveX 26. And there is Leah Block, who is racing primarily in F1 Academy this year as a Williams-back driver. And she is part of the Williams Driver Academy. That's a really nice story to see Leah Block. Of course, Ray, tragically, her father passed away at the beginning of last year. The late great Ken Block, who was a renowned rally driver and stunt driver and internet sensation. And Leah, of course, was following in his footsteps and really coming on, learning a lot from her father and from the people around her. She was actually showing some really good promise in rallycross. I remember seeing a couple of her performances in Nitro rallycross and some of the smaller, lower, I think the kind of the feeder rallycross series with the single mate cars. And she was absolutely killing it in terms of pace there. So it's really lovely to see that she's taken at least a bit of a surprise move into single seaters, but a pleasant surprise nonetheless. It's really good to see her making that switch across to move forwards into proper circuit racing and single seaters. And of course now with the backing of the Williams Driver Academy, racing in F1 Academy, which I think are on a bit of a break between race meetings. It's a slightly reduced but spread out calendar. It's good to see that we've got her on the grid this weekend. The calendar of F1 Academy, just looking at where we've gone so far, yeah, their next race isn't until August, so she's got plenty of time at the wheel of an F4 car to get some more valuable track time. In fact, her next race in F1 Academy isn't until August at Zandvoort, and then it's Singapore, Marseille and Yas Island to round off the season, so they've completed the first half of the season. There is Maciej Gladish, who started on the front row of the grid. This time without a penalty. He got a 5-place grid penalty for a incident or a penalty obtained from Portimao, so that was carried over to the next race. There is Griffin Peebles, a decent start, good qualifying in 4th. I think some of his efforts in qualifying. Griffin Peebles, it wasn't his best result in terms of any qualifying session, because his best result was starting the second race at Portimao from the front row of the grid. So certainly good for the young Australian. That was Ernesto Rivera for Griffin called by Campos. Here's our Red Bull-backed youngster, the American James Agozzi. A little bit of social media content being filmed as well. You can see there too. And that's one way to keep a driver cool. Direct the fan straight in his face into the cockpit. James Agozzi did himself and Red Bull pretty proud. Matteo Colnaghi. He's hoping to try and convert pole position into a second victory if possible. So, just some notice from race control, just a reminder of procedure actually, whilst they're clearing up the final corner. So the grid's going to be set actually by the order in which they were running at the last sector. The last sector they went through. So in that case, it'll be the order they went through in sector 2. So that's interesting. So that means they'll have to figure out what the order was through sector 2 on that opening lap, and then set the grid based on that. So rather than going back to the original grid, I know there are some championships that do that, the grid's going to be set by the order of the field where they went through sector 2 on that opening lap. So, of course, because not everyone got through sector 3, so therefore they can't really establish a proper full grid of that. So they've decided to go with sector 2 just to try and set that grid. So Chiara Lazzari will have a chance to try and redeem himself. And again, he really needs those points after not scoring yesterday. And he wants to add a victory if he can to his 2 victories at Portimao, his 2 second places, one at Jarama, one at Portimao, and the 3rd place also at Jarama. His worst result of the season up until his DNF was 9th in the 3rd race at Jarama. So that certainly he's been changed to that non-score. Right, no, forgive me, he did actually finish yesterday's first race, forgive me. He was 26th, but so that still makes it his worst result of the season. Of course, points only go down to, in that first race, in 10th. So no points for him in that sense, but still managed to get out there and finish the race. Of course, we didn't get Lucas Fluscher finishing the race because he had damage to that right rear wheel, so he couldn't even move forwards. The recovery teams at Paul Ricard working hard. See there, that is a little shot of Maciej Kladish. And just a look back again at the start of race, that first start of race 2. See, Colnaghi on the left-hand side taking the racing line. The battle going on there between Kladish in the white KCL MP Motorsport car, and then the MP Motorsport cars behind. The car that ran wide, I'm going to have a stab. I think it was René Lammers that went wide. It was an MP Motorsport car that rejoined further afield, but you couldn't really see it that far back. You can see lots of battles going on all the way through that first sector and in towards the first part of the Mistral Straight. So it looks like it was Colnaghi from Al-Azhari, then from Maciej Kladish, and then from Griffin Peebles. So that was the order went through. So Al-Azhari managed to put himself into second place, and I think that should give him the front row start for the restart here in race 2 at Paul Ricard. So I think the last car just being recovered, that being of Maximiliano Restrepo, who, again, as I mentioned, has had a little bit of a weekend to forget. It really hasn't been one for him to remember so far. His best result so far this season had been 19th at Jarama Race 3. And for him, after his damage yesterday, hasn't really worked out. Alex Garcia down in pit lane. How are the drivers feeling, and what's the emotion we'll be going through these drivers now with the restart imminent in a few minutes' time? Just about clearing up the circuit, but a lot of action at the final corner. But of course, it now means you have to reset again, and drivers will be having a lot of adrenaline pumping through them and having to also take a bit of a reset now they've stopped racing for a moment.
That is very, very complicated for them. That's the most probably difficult moment of the weekend, because that's when you're releasing all the adrenaline. You're going all out and on the first 2 laps, 3 laps, and then suddenly everything needs to shut down. You need to come down from that high, and then you need to relax, you need to reset, you need to get back to it, but you need to get back to it in a different way than you did at the regular start, which for these drivers usually is quite difficult, especially for those more at the back when drivers who have been in issues. We've seen Lucas Fluxa, who had a little bit of a damage in the front wing. But anyway, why don't we listen from the drivers themselves? Let's talk to Maciej Gajs and see what his opinion is about this situation. After first few laps, stop, go, how do you manage with that?
Yeah, to be honest, if not the safety car, I was quite close to Keanu, so I think I could have overtaken him. But yeah, now restart. I need to do a good restart, and yeah, we'll try to overtake quickly just to gain the front and score as many points as possible. But we'll also work for the team just to score also many points and get this top 3 together with Mattia and Keanu.
Thank you very much. Have a good race and good luck. What better to hear from the man himself, one of the main stars of the weekend. And as we see, clearly it is a difficult moment for them. They have to adapt to this, let's say, new reality of the race. Shorter race ahead, of course, because the time, the time of the first few laps still ticked. But let's see how they manage with it. Definitely, I could see a few tense faces, especially in the pit lane, especially among the mechanics and engineers of the teams, because for them this is also quite a tricky moment.
One key thing I think will be interesting to see is how Kiana Al-Azari, now that they're going back to the order from the end of Sector 2 to set the grid for this restart, Kiana Al-Azari now starts from the front row of the grid rather than row 2. So if he can get a better start, he might get the jump and the whole shot down towards the first chicane on pole sitter Mattia Kolnagi. How crucial could that be for him to take a victory and again get those valuable points he missed out on yesterday, finishing back in 26th? So apologies for any technical difficulty there as there might be, but we'll see. We've got down here at in the grid the cars lining up. So again, as I mentioned, the order is going to be based on the running order when the cars came through Sector 2 at the end of on that first lap before the red flag was thrown. So we'll see if there is any chance now. I've just taken a screenshot of the timing screen so I can see kind of what that order should be. And the order which I'm getting in front of me now, based on my screenshot that I've got based on the timing screen, so it should be Mattia Kolnagi will start on pole position. Kiana Al-Azari looks like he'll be on the front row alongside him this time. So rather than back on row 2, he might get a good shot to win the drag race down towards the Verori S-bend at the end of the pit straight. Patrick Gladys should be set to start third on my screen, going alongside Griffin Peebles. Then Alesta Rivera and James Agozzi, followed by Juan Coates and Mattia Quintarelli. And then it's Jan Przejowski and Nathan Ty. As for Lucas Fluxa, he's the big loser out of this because the damage he sustained to his front wing dropped him down the order. And from where he originally qualified in 11th for his second fastest time in qualifying yesterday, he now has to start back in 30th place. So a huge disadvantage for Lucas Fluxa, who again is having an absolute nightmare weekend, at least in terms of racing. As I mentioned, didn't even get beyond a few yards of the start of race 1 yesterday with damage to his right rear wheel that put him out of the race. And that brought out the early safety car. And now he has to kind of do it all again. He was hoping for a better start, but that damage now puts him all the way down in 30th place. They have replaced the front wing, because you saw that earlier on when he was in pit lane. The team of KCL MP Motorsport did have a new nose section ready for him. He was ready to go through. And continue to have a look at our front runners. There is Maciej Gladys, who now essentially is literally trading places on the grid this time with the man in front of him, Kiana Al-Azari. And whether or not it will be a much better run down towards turn 1 remains to be seen for Kiana, as he will start on the right-hand side of the grid. That'll be more the racing line, so it might be a little bit cleaner. It could well work out a bit better for him. He's able to pick up a good start and win the race down towards turn 1, it could well be a chance to allow him to run away with the lead early doors and control the pace from the outset. Just keeping an eye on the temperatures, if they've gone up at all, or if they have changed since we last looked at them. And currently, yeah, the track temperature's gone up again. It's gone up to 38 degrees now, so getting even hotter. And 22 degrees, it's also getting more humid. It's now 71% humidity. So warmer, hotter, slightly more clammier conditions for the drivers. That's going to be pretty crucial for them in terms of trying to cope. It's not overwhelming heat, but at the same time, it's still quite warm for a French summer morning. We're still, of course, local time at about, well, into the afternoon now. It's early afternoon, 12:15 at this point. Of course, what this might well mean as well is this is the last session before the scheduled lunch break, so it might well be that lunch break is kind of eating into it a little bit. But the race, I think that's 5 minutes now until we get the restart underway, and I think we are probably going to run a little bit behind schedule, but even so, hard work by all of the recovery teams and the marshals and the officials and volunteers for making race events like this happen, and without them we simply couldn't go racing. So if you're interested in becoming a marshal, you can get in touch with your local or national marshals club, or your local circuit racing club or local racing club centre that has a marshals team. Get yourself involved, and potentially you could be on the grid around the circuit at one point. So a chance for Matti Kolnagi to again get a strong start from pole position, beat the pack down to the first corner, and then start to pull away and go for his second win in as many races, his second win of the season, and also try to thrust himself into the championship fight, because 2 victories will certainly do that for him. And he will be the only other driver, other than, fittingly and coincidentally, Keanu Alazari, to have won more than one race. So far, we have had 4 different race winners from the 6 races. 1 each for Flusha, Strauven. Sorry, 2 for Flusha, in fact. Forgive me, I'm getting myself muddled up. So, there have been 2 two-time race winners, I'll correct myself. Lucas Flusha and Keanu Alazari, plus Thomas Strauven and Ernesto Rivera, and of course now, Matti Kolnagi from that first race yesterday. So that's now 5 different race winners. He wins again in this race, he'll become the 3rd driver to win more than one race this season. So the 3-minute board is about to go up any second now. There it goes. So the preparation will begin, and then the Audi safety car will lead the pack out onto the grid. Of course, we'll be minus 3 cars that will not take the start, I think is almost for certain, which is going to be Tim Gerhardt's, followed by Preston Lambert and Maximiliano Restrepo, all 3 caught up in that tangle at the final corner on the opening lap. And that means that they unfortunately will have 0 scores next to their name. And it gives the other 32 drivers who are surviving a chance to go again. Talking about Leah Block earlier on, she qualified in 32nd with her second fastest time in that one. She made a lightning getaway in the first couple of sectors, and she now looks set to take the restart in 20th position. It's a mega bit of progress from Leah, up 12 places in 2 sectors. Really, really good start. There would have been other drivers that would have been all at sea, I'd imagine, with all over the place and running wide and having issues, but she's taken full advantage of picking her way through the pack and set to start inside the top 20. Good effort from Leah, of course. That will give her lots of confidence for the rest of the season and the rest of the day. And of course, going forwards, she'll be learning even more to take to the rest of her F1 Academy campaign. There's Ernesto Rivera. Keeping calm, keeping composed to himself. And keeping cool under the umbrella. It's a vital thing to do in these warm conditions. Stay cool, but also stay hydrated. Because in some of the hotter races around the world, of course, you can lose not just weight, but water as well. Become incredibly dehydrated, and that's such a crucial thing. So the 1 minute board has gone up. That means that engines are refired, and we're getting set now for preparations for the restart for race 2 of the weekend for the F4 Spanish Championship here at Circuit Paul Ricard in the sunny summer French sunshine. And as I mentioned, the grid looks set to be set by the order in which the field went through sector 2 on that opening lap. So as a result of that, Mattia Colnaghi looks set to start on pole position for the restart once again, but this time is the car right behind him, Chiane Al-Azari, championship leader. He will be on his tail and alongside him on the front row of the grid. A few more cars, I think, trying to park up into position, I think, here, but it's 46 and 35. 46 is a tie. 35 is Adam Hideg, who I think came in and also had a bit of a tweak. As the pack makes its way out behind the safety car. And also I should note as well that the timer, I think it's a 22-minute restart, but the timer has started as the cars come out of the pit lane. I think to battle some of the timetable restraints that they'll have because it's running late because of the incident that forced the red flag, that in order to try and save time, essentially the race has technically started. I think it's a safety car restart as well. So rather than bring them up onto the grid and then get them to a standing start, it'll simply be a rolling start under the safety car. So of course the safety car will bunch them all up like a regular safety car start it would be, and then once the race is ready to get underway, safety car lights will go out, the safety car will accelerate, Mattia Colnaghi will slow down, back up the pack, and then decide when he wants to pull the pin and get the race properly underway once more. That will mean that the likes of Chiane Al-Azari, Jack Gladic, from Peebles, Ernesto Rivera, Igozzi, Kota, Quintarelli, Przowski and more are going to have to be on their toes and watch for when Colnaghi decides to restart the race. Once the safety car goes in, by default, Colnaghi becomes the quote-unquote safety car. He decides when the race gets back underway. You could go early, you could go late, you could go right to the top of the pit straight, you could go right back at the exit of Bondor through Curb de Galaban or exit through De La Tour. It's his choice. With a 32 strong field stacked up in total on this grid, minus the 3 cars that we lost, being Tim Gerhardt, Preston Lambert and Maximilian Restrepo. Means it's going to be also crucial to try and keep out of trouble, particularly when we've had one red flag on the start. It's a busy track out there. A lot of drivers fighting for their own piece of real estate on the road. But ultimately, everyone wants to make it home. Everyone wants to make it safely to the checkered flag. So let's rattle through the grid again then. So, Colnaghi starts on pole. Chiane Al-Azari alongside him on the front row of the grid. Patrick Gladic starts third, alongside Griffin Peebles. Then it's Ernesto Rivera, followed by Juan Igozzi. Sorry, James Igozzi, forgive me. Juan Cota, Mattia Quintarelli, Thomas Strauben, and Jan Przowski in the top 10. Then it's going to be in 11th place. So they can tie in the top 10. Strauben's 11th on the original grid sheet. Gomez 12th. Then next it'll be Enzo and Tom Manichkul in 13th place. Mercedes 14th, Buzinellos 14th, followed by Cardenas, Ivan David, Ried, Fiorentina, Leah Block starting 20th. Watch for her from P20. And Rebert, Dedeker, Adam Al-Azari back in 23rd. Robzanski, it's Castillo, Hakim Cantu, Pedersen, René Lammers back in 29th. Lucas Flusha, crucially, down 30th on the restart. Watch for him to kick through if he can, if he gets a bit of momentum. And then 31st is Jacobi from Hideg. He'll be the last car at the back of the field, given that both, as we say, Tim Gerhardt, Preston Lambert and Maximilian Restrepo are the 3 cars that we lost from that final corner incident on the opening lap, and they will not take the restart. I'll continue to tick down. About 18 and a bit minutes. Oh, and they've had 2 more cars come together on the formation, on the safety car lap. Now then, that's extraordinary. So it's, I think it's that car 12 or 72. I'm trying to work out the number. one was a Santa Lot car. I think that's 21 that was involved. And that's Ivan David. So they're going to stay behind the safety car rather than get going again. I wondered why the safety car wasn't going to come in, and that's the reason why. So the time people will tell us who goes tumbling down it. One is definitely, I'm certain, Ivan David. The other one, oh, it's Adam Al-Azhari. Adam Al-Azhari, the brother of Kiana Al-Azhari, in his first weekend of a championship, first weekend car racing full stop. Both of them come together. That was at the Nord chicane by the look of it. But it's one thing to have an incident at racing speeds, but it's another to have an incident underneath the safety car. Well, difficult to put judgment without actually seeing a replay, if there is one, but that's not good in terms of both of their fortunes. Same for Adam Al-Azhari, given that he's had a decent enough first weekend in cars, and that's for Van David. His fair share of bad luck. He had a retirement from the second race at Portimao. Best result of the year was 7th back at Harama, so he's got, came into the weekend, was it 16th in points, the Sri Lankan. He's got some bigger problems than that at the moment. And we now stay behind the safety car. This will eat in further into the reduced time of 22 minutes. Because remember, the timer started as soon as the green flag was waved at the end of the pit lane, so it's not as if they're going to bring them back around and do another standing start, because there isn't time to do so in the timetable. We're actually technically into the lunch break in terms of times scheduling already, so minimal time scale here to be able to use that properly. So again, weaving from side to side, keeping some temperature into the tyres and keep the pressures up, keep the brake temperatures good as well. Key to keep on top of temperatures, particularly with brakes. The track temperature is still, again, 38 degrees. Very warm, very hot track at this Ricard at this point in the day. It will even get hotter as the afternoon goes on. But the recovery team's going in overdrive today. They've already very quickly put Adam Al-Azhari just now putting his car onto the low loader. Now, Adam Al-Azhari's car is missing a front wing. And they're also taking the car, as you can see, look, just through the little runoff area, just around the markers for the runoff area chicane, where you weave your way through in order to correctly skip if you straight line it or run wide or make contact with somebody. And not as much time on this occasion for the likes of Colnaghi, Al-Azhari and to make their impact. Of course, it's benefit for Colnaghi because of him at the moment. It's on course, possibly his a second victory, possibly even his easier one. One was much easier, in fact, than it was in race one. But still have, as the clock suggests, just under 15 minutes plus 1 lap. So nothing is ever guaranteed in motorsport. But it's if there's anyone that's at least certainly a little bit secretly happy about the safety car, the key person is certainly going to be Mattia Colnaghi, because it means as long as he stays behind the safety car, it's never what you want as a racing driver. Of course, you want to be out there probably battling at full speed. It's always frustrating when you're behind the safety car like this. But ultimately, if it keeps him in front of everyone else that little bit longer and he just further starts to incrementally increase his chances of taking a victory, then who would you be to complain if you were in the same situation? Ambient temperature still 23 degrees. The wind is still a bit stronger. You can see the flags fluttering on top of the Paul Ricard pit buildings. The Paul Ricard rounds finished today. The champion goes back home to Spain for the remaining 4 rounds. Runs at Roseland Aragon, which takes place at the end of this month, in fact. So back at Aragon at the end of the month in just a few weeks' time. Then the Circuit Ricardo Tormo in Valencia will be in the middle of September. Just a couple of weeks after that, we'll have the Circuito de Jerez at the beginning of October, and then on the 8th and 10th of November, it'll be Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya for the final rounds on the home of the Spanish Grand Prix. Long season. Some 21 races in total. We've only completed 7 of them so far, so 2/3 of the season still left to run in this year's F4 Spanish Championship. There is Ivan David's Santalot racing car, quite swiftly taken off the circuit on the back of the recovery truck. I think there's possibly damage to the right rear. I saw. I think the right rear tyre was down. So, and I noticed also that Adam Alazari had a missing front wing. So again, I'm not clerk of the course or a steward. I'm not trying to purposely try and put 2 and 2 together to solve the case, but the evidence would potentially suggest that Adam Alazari has tipped or tapped the back of Ivan David's car. Because of that, that's caused a right rear puncture, which, if that's what I thought it looked like, it is. As a result of that, the front wing's also come off with that contact, so it possibly might be right rear to front wing. That's what's caused the issue. But again, we'll leave it to the clerk of the course and the stewards to firmly decide who, if anyone, was at fault in that. Now, it looks to me as if we've got quite a clear track, so I'd imagine possibly, which is control yet. So also a couple of notes here that incident involving cars 12 and 21, which was Adam Alazari and Ivan David, will be investigated after the race, and also the incident prior to the... No, that's the same sort of message. That's incident cars 12 and 21 will be investigated after the race. Now look at that. It's wrong. We can't do anything in the race now anyway, because neither of them are running. So therefore, any penalty to try to impose will be a little bit pointless. So safety car lights are now out, which means that we've got 11 minutes plus 1 lap. Well, they'll be back for about 10.5 minutes in reality, to try and see if Matic Kolnagi could hold on, become his 2nd Spanish F4 victory of the season and of the weekend here at Paul Ricard. Or if Chiara Alazari could get himself some points on the board after that non-score yesterday. What did Maciej Kalic do after he started originally from the front row of the grid? What about the likes of Griffin Peebles and Esther Rivera, yesterday's podium finishers, James Agozzi and Juan Cota, Thomas Strauven back in 9th, and Lucas Fluscher, of course, back in 11th, and of course Lucas Fluscher all the way back in 13th now. That's interesting. Anyway, the restart is underway. Kolnagi puts his foot down, and he now makes his way round through Virage de la Tour, through Virage Dupont, onto the pit straight, up to the green flags. With 10 minutes plus 1 lap to go exactly, we are racing once again at Paul Ricard in race 2 in F4 Spanish Championship. Kolnagi leads it to Alazari, Gladish, Peebles, Rivera, Igozzi, Cota, Quintarelli, Brzezinski and Ty. That's the top 10 across the line. The cars darting out. Put themselves in the mirrors of the car in front, or possibly just to kind of cool the car a little bit more. Now the racing temperatures, the faster you go, arguably the more air you can push into the side pods. Technically, the more air you can push in there to keep it cool. Through Virage de l'Hôtel, through Virage du Camp, now through Virage de la Sambone. Now the first run once again on proper racing speeds under the Mistral straight. As the pack comes streaming through, one after the other, 1 or 2 moves being made in the background. And again, Kolnagi leads it, but with half a second advantage, there's enough for tow here. Alazari to start causing problems. Holds the racing line, fast around a little bit. A couple of moves being made towards the bottom of the top 10. A couple of people shaping up for a pass, possibly. But like I think that was Nathan Ty on Jan Przowski might have been a change for 9th and 10th. And actually, I was looking at some reason a different order there, because it's the actual running order has got Lucas Fluscher in 13th place. So maybe the time wasn't 100% correct, but it's put Lucas Fluscher back in P13. So it's not all doom and gloom for him. Rusinha. No change in the top 10 so far. Also looking pretty close. Adam Hideg was there in the tail of the Ty and Przowski battle. And I think Nathan Ty has got ahead of Przowski. Yes, he has. So a pass for position between the two Campos teams. Nathan Ty for Campos Racing. Przowski in the Griffin call by Campos car. And it looks like Kolnagi's got this one relatively under control at this early point. through Virage de la Tour, back through Virage Dupont, and back onto the pit straight again. So, at proper racing speeds, we get the first proper indication of who's got pace where in this proper flying lap. And it initially goes to Mattia Colnaghi. So he will now set the baseline of a 2 minutes 7.726, but the gap between himself and Al-Azhari is still half a second. Leaders in towards the Estella Verari. I wonder here, is Glacic now starting to put the pressure on Al-Azhari early doors here? I think Rivera trying to put Peebles under threat. Currently, it is MP Motorsport first, second and fourth at this point. We've got Camposh cars in the mix there I know it's Magic Gladic is also in there in four positions, so it's actually MP Motorsport cars first, second, third and fourth. Current top four lockout at the moment. Driving these trials straight. Another bit of a gap being broken here by Colnaghi. In fact, Gladic is closer to Al-Azhari than Al-Azhari is to Colnaghi. After the chicane. Just keeps up the pursuit. And of course now, with a shortened race, and of course the race time is starting as soon as they left the pits, it's much less time to make an impact here. You want to go, you've got to go now. Otherwise, you'll find yourself thinking it's too little too late. It looks like Rivera was shaping up on the rear end of Griffin Peebles there, just to the right of shot as you saw it going through the camera. Could be a possible move coming up. That's the closest initial battle in this shortened race. Colnaghi on this lap in terms of sectors, he was quicker by about 2/10 in the first sector. He was fractionally faster in the second sector also, so ever slightly edging away from Al-Azhari. I'd certainly very much like to win, as any driver would, but again, races you don't win on the days where you can't get to the top step, but you try and bank as many points as you can and make the most of them. So if Al-Azhari can't win, second place is still good. That can still net him 15 points. That'll do him no harm in the championship whatsoever. For Colnaghi, though, he's going after it. He wants a second win. 25-minute race, so there's a change in the points. You don't actually score 25 points for a win now. Eventually, they get rid of the 25-point score and move the scores up one position. So it's 18 points for a win. The top 9 score points. You also get a point for fastest lap on top of that too. Here's a battle that's brewing. That was James Agozzi looking, trying to go around the outside of Esther Rivera. Slots back in, but he's under threat from Juan Cota and also Matteo Quintarelli. Another scrap going on there between Ty, Przowski and Hideg as well in there too. And the driver that's lost out on that is Quintarelli. He's dropped to 16th place. What's happened to Quintarelli? Is that him on the inside line? No, I don't think it is. But something's happened to Matteo Quintarelli. He's dropping down the order like a stone. So he's got an issue. And as the top two try to pull away now, this is the fight for fourth now. So we've got Peebles, Rivera, Agozzi, Cota, and then the next lot is Ty. I think Quintarelli is there, but it was a faulty transponder, so that's the reason why he was tumbling. And I wondered why he wasn't there, but Quintarelli, the highest placed Santalot car, trying to salvage something from this race after he lost Maximiliano Restrepo. And Ivan David also out under the safety car during that period, so he's there remaining hope for some good points. And there, that's Johan Coth looking up the inside, trying to get himself a bit of revenge on James Agozzi from yesterday. Of course, Agozzi made the move that dropped Juan Coth down to second place, to third place, excuse me. So up now through Virage de Bondor, through Courbe de Galabin, back through Virage de la Tour and Virage Dupont. End of another lap. The shortened race, they're running out of time and running out of options. One car running very wide the back. I think that was in fact Matteo Quintarelli. So yeah, he dropped a couple of spots. So it's not been a great race for Santalot Racing. Restrepo out at the final corner on the first lap. Then, before the race even got back underway again on the safety car, contact between Ivan David and Adam Al-Azhari. Two of their cars hitting strife before they even complete the proper racing lap. Top three are in a race of their own now. Kolnagi, Alazari and Gladish. There's that huge battle pack behind. I think we need to focus mainly on that because, yes, Gladish is shaping up Alazari, but look at fourth place downwards. They're all over each other. Battle about 7, 8, 9 cars, and that stretches all the way back down to the midfield. To head back onto the Mistral Straight. As the top three go through, it's that fight for fourth I want to see because it's now Rivera trying to pull away here as Egozzi under threat from Peebles. So Egozzi's got past the Australian and trying to chase after Rivera in fourth place, the Mexican, in a North American showdown. Time continues to tick away. Less than 2.5 minutes plus 1 lap. They're running out of time. We're going to get 2 more laps this time around, I think. It's a fast lap time for these guys is 2:07s, 2:08. It's hit 2:08 now, so they'll cross the line. I guess with about roughly 1 minute 30, 1 minute 20 to go. So here comes Coaster up the inside into Debose. Makes the move on Peebles. Tries to do the switchback. Holds the inside line. Peebles looks to the outside to try and repass into Virage de Bondor. Can't make that one stick. Well, that's going on. There's one MP Motorsport car goes on the attack. So comes under attack. Another one is also defending. There's the move. People just squirming around on exit, just hovering around the rear end of Coaster's car. Couldn't make that one stick. Just another lap. 2 to go. Kolnagi, Alazari, Gladish. Alazari is clear by 1.6 seconds. He's behind Kolnagi by 1.6 seconds. He's clear of Gladish by about 4/10, but that's not enough to be comfortable. He knows he'll be under pressure. Rivera still fourth. And James Egozzi. I mean, who's going to make that mix? Because it's him and Juan Coulter close together, and so James and Juan getting the two mixed up. James Egozzi on the last lap was... last lap times on the timing screen. He was actually slower by 4/10. So that surprised me for a second. I thought he'd be a bit quicker than Rivera. Yeah, Rivera actually 4/10 now, but on this first part of the sector, it looks as though that Egozzi's trying to make a challenge here. We'll keep an eye on that battle for second also, because Gladish is in the tow. And in fact, actually, Egozzi goes from Hunter to Hunter because here comes Juan Coulter to try and repass him. It's the complex. This is almost kind of positional revenge for Coulter losing out to second place yesterday at Egozzi's expense. Still, Kolnagi in command. After a second nose to tail. Then Rivera. Egozzi now. Holding off Coulter. Peebles under threat from Brzezowski. There's battles everywhere you look. In the top 10. Which one blinks first? I haven't got long. Just under a lap and a half to do it. Through the Bose. Now into Virage de Bondor. The left-hander that just late apex and back on the power again as it curves out for this long, almost never-ending right-hander. Curb de Galabin. Sets you up for the next long corner, which is a left-hander, slightly shorter. And Coaster's going on the attack. There's been a passing spot here at the Virage du Pont. He might try up the inside if he's got an option. And couldn't quite manage it, but he's tucked underneath the rear wing of the American. It's the pack at the bottom of the top 10 and beyond goes streaming through. Last lap. He's getting impatient now. On the rear end of Kiana Alazari. Is there any chance for him to get through? And the last lap, looking at that time, he was 2/10 quicker. Quicker in every sector, even only just in the final sector by 0.02 of a second. Good run through here, through the hotel, through Comp. Saint-Baume might set him up for a run down the first part of the Mistral Straight. A bit close there, he might try and attack him towards Senior. Fifth isn't done either. Egozzi, Coulter and Peebles are the main contenders in that battle. And look, Alazari trying to break the toe. He's not comfortable on the racing line because he knows that Gladish is in striking range. Kolnagi's away and gone by 1.8 seconds, but it's the battle for second we need to watch out for. Into the chicane. Left. Right. Alazari still keeping the power down a little wider on the exit, using all the road. Now the sprint up the second part of the Mistral Straight towards Senior. And again, Al-Azhari can't stay in the racing line. He has to try and break the toe from the car behind. But the Polish driver is wise to it. He sticks on his gearbox through Senior. There goes Rivera. Any chance to try and make it through here? Al-Azhari holds his line. Gladchik takes the wider approach. He wants the undercut on the exit if he can. No way through. Might have been his last big attack, unless Al-Azhari makes a mistake, touch wood. I think second place is just about his to lose. He's pulled a slightly more of a car length ahead. They'll keep battling towards the flag. After the final couple of the corners. What's the phrase? You wait for 2 Spanish F4 wins, wait for 1 and 2 come along at once. Maciej Kolnagi from pole position heads to the checkered flag. Did it yesterday in race 1, he'll do it again in race 2. Kolnagi does the double so far, 2 from 2 with Paul Ricard. He wins the second Spanish race, F4 at Paul Ricard. Al-Azhari second, Gladish third, Rivera fourth, and the fight for 5th to the flag goes the way of Panagotzi. Oh, and there's more after before the end of the race. That's 27 off the race. Lucas Flusha, and one of the DriveX cars, I think. Now then, we didn't see what happened, then we saw the aftermath, but more headaches for Lucas Flusha. And I also noticed that Wankota is there. Lucas Flusha, is that him with more damage on the front of his car? I think it is, isn't it? Lucas Flusha cannot catch a break this weekend, can he? I feel that's, forgive me, that's 77. I do apologise. 77, that's Lenny Ried for Monlau Motorsport. But again, point still stands. Lucas Flusha can't catch a break at all, can he, when it comes to good results? And he came across the line in 24th. So wouldn't have any points for him anyway, but still, not a weekend he'd like to remember. So the results then from race number 2. What was a rather eventful second race. Maciej Kolnagi takes the victory by 1.9 seconds. Luciano Al-Azhari in second place. Maciej Gladic in third for KCLMP Motorsport. It's then Ernesto Rivera and Juan Agotzi rounding out the top 5, followed by Juan Cota from Peebles, Jan Przojowski, Adam Hideg and Thomas Strauver rounding out the top 10. And it was Cardenas in 11th place, Gomez in 12th, Macedo in 13th, René Lammers up to 14th. Remember, he started back in, where was he? 18th on the grid, so up 4 places from where he originally got to. Then it's Pedersen. Quintarelli went down to 16th after his antics, so he dropped down there to latter stages. And a shout out to Leah Block. She started initially in that race, 32nd, took the restart in 20th. She finished 17th. That's a great effort from Leah Block. Well done for the F1 Academy racer who's part of the Williams outfit. Good drive from her. 18th place for Fiorentino. Dobrzansky was in 19th, followed by Hakim rounding out the top 20. Tom Van Ichkel down in 21st place. Not a great race for him. He was way down the order. Castillo 22nd, Cantu 23rd. Lucas Flusha, after his last corner tangle, he ends up in 24th position. Buznellos in 25th from Lenny Ried, the German driver. He eventually finished 26th, but with damaged front wing. And Jacobi, Rieber, Nathan Tye dropped out also in the latter stages. He was out at the end of the first sector. So that's Nathan Tye, who was 6th in the points. That's his second retirement of the season, so in 3 races. Not good for him in terms of points. And then Dube de Decker, and then we lost the cars that we also had out both on the under the safety car and on the formation lap on the first start, which was Adam Al-Azhari and Ivan David on the safety car restart, and then we had Tim Gerhardt, Preston Lambert and Maximiliano Restrepo, who were out at the end of the first lap on the first start after they all tangled at the final corner. P1. Maciej Kolnagi, victory once again for KCLMP Motorsport and for Italy. His second win in a row in the championship. And again, firmly pushing himself into championship contention with that one. Congratulations and smiles all round. Definitely enjoyed that one. We'll hear from him very shortly, from Alex Garcia, who'll be down there to have a chat. It was a relatively straightforward run for Maciej, no challenge at all. He just kept his cool. He allowed Al-Azhari and Gladys to get in amongst each other. Not massive battles, but it was pretty close out there with them nose to tail. And of course we've got Al-Azhari comes over to congratulate him, as well as Maciej Gladic. He's going to quickly go over and get himself weighed, and then once he's done that, he'll be able to be come back out, where Alex Garcia will be standing by to have a chat with him on how he found that second race and how it feels to be a two-time winner. Only the third two-time winner so far this season in Spanish F4. There he is. It is victory once again for Mattia Colnaghi, second of the weekend and of the season. He's down there to talk through all of it with Alex Garcia down at the top 3 in Part Ferme.
And it's race 2, and after a win yesterday in race 1, Spanish for championship here in Port Ricard, Mattia Colnaghi again P1. Not just the win, but the pace was amazing, both in the first start and the second start. How was that?
Yeah, obviously thanks to the great quali 1, I was able to get the pole also for this race and just manage the race in front. And we know our pace on the used tire especially is really good. So yeah, just domination and just pulled away from the guys behind. So really happy with that.
How did you manage a situation where the race, you're ready for the start, everything goes on, and then at that point you have to stop and you have to reset your mind? How do you keep the focus on at that point?
So I got a good advantage straight away in the first part, so it was red flag. So for a moment you think, fuck, it's not so great this situation. But then with all the time we had, it was just time to refocus, reconcentrate and just put the hammer down once again. And that's just what I did. So yeah, it was great.
And you did it great. Congratulations. Enjoy the podium now.
Thank you.
Thank you. So that was Mattia Colnaghi once again winning a race this weekend. That's 2 in a row. And that is wonderful for his championship hopes, for his championship expectations. Although we have Keanu Alazari, who was on the podium, and of course is going to score a few points.
Yeah, valuable results, of course, for Mattia Colnaghi. It really thrusts him into the championship fight now with 2 victories. And of course we had Keanu Alazari second place. Again, makes up for the retirement from yesterday. One driver who again just can't seem to catch a break so far this weekend is Lucas Flusha. Of course, I mentioned he got tangled up in that final corner incident, was outside the top 10 for all of that race. Of course, had that drama yesterday. So, amazingly, not great fortunes for him in many cases, but he's going to try and bounce back for race 3 if he can. He was going to qualify for that race earlier on this morning, and that grid has put him in 17th. So, not the same pace he showed throughout the season. His form has been pretty consistent in the first couple of weekends. Maybe just Paul Ricard is not a circuit to his liking. So the drivers will head up towards the podium very, very shortly. But as I was mentioning, Lucas Flusha, who has come through, try and pick his way through. Let's look at the highlights of that restart of race 2. It was pretty straightforward for Mattia Colnaghi. Battles behind, though, raised pretty much for third place backwards. Lots of dueling, lots of stalemates as well throughout the pack. And this is the fight that went off for third place initially between Peebles, Rivera, Egozzi and Kota. And Kota managed to pick his way through on the inside to get past if he could. Eventually Egozzi started to make some progress. When Kota went up the inside of Peebles and took a position from him towards the second half of the race. So here, Egozzi went defending from Kota and towards the chicane, but has to keep him at bay to hold on to another victory position. In terms of the scrap for second, Alazari and Galic managed to hold on between each other, but as I mentioned, 2 come along at once, and there's what happened between the 3 cars, in fact, actually, because that was Lucas Flusha getting tangled up with, I can't quite catch exactly who that was, but there was a car that came across the line. It was orange and blue, so he was certainly involved in that. But as I mentioned, he went for 1 victory and 2 come along at once. It was victory in race number 2 once again for Mattia Colnaghi. Second place for Keanu Alazari, and crucial points for him after not scoring yesterday. This is what happened at the original start. You can see there Alazari got the jump on Gladic to hold on. And lots of battles in the mid-pack, heading down towards the chicane for the first time. Everyone keeping relatively single file, but trying to pick their battles very carefully. Then we had the red flag after the incident at the final corner. Back to ring flag racing once again, we saw that. And then from the restart, it was Colnaghi in contention all the way to the end. And he tried to pull away with Keanu Alazari and Patrick Gladic trying to go with him, but it seems as though in the end that the pace was just good enough for Colnaghi to hold on, dominate the race from start to finish, and to pull away and create that gap. So, podium is underway at Paul Ricard. Maciej Gladic goes to third place on the podium. On to second place goes Gianni Malazari. It's pretty much smiles all around, isn't it, for MP Motorsport? One of their team representatives up there too. With his second win in as many races, he's quite enjoying Paul Ricard. There's good reason for him to do so, because it's been kind to him with 2 race wins so far. And Matteo Colnaghi takes another victory for Italy and for KCL MP Motorsport. Top step of the podium. And now we have the Italian national anthem for the winning driver. Matteo Colnaghi hearing once again the national anthem of Italy, courtesy of his victory in race number 2. Just a bit of impromptu maths actually to try and figure out how he has done in terms of results. As we see, MP Motorsport and one of their team mechanics up to collect the award for the winning team. And second place, of course, the third place trophy going to Maciej Gladic, the Polish driver. And that will certainly be pleasing for him, given the fact that he has now picked up, that's now his best result of the season. No, sorry, it's it's his second podium of the season. And he got a second place back at Harama, so it's not quite his best, but it's his second podium at least. And also his 4th top 5 finish of the season. Ricard Alazari, that'll be relief more than anything else after retiring from yesterday. Well, he's finishing way out of the points back in 26, which would have felt like a retirement. And for the victory, Matteo Colnaghi gets another trophy to take home to put onto the mantelpiece. And he holds it aloft. And that'll be another large bank of points. That'll be 18 points plus the fastest lap points as well. So I calculate, as the Fizz goes flying, that he's now on 81 points, given the fact he took the fastest lap yesterday. Also pole position also too, so actually it's 83 points I think in fact actually, so he's climbed further up. This puts him at least firmly into championship contention now, with pole position in qualifying yesterday, and then it would have been fastest lap in both races, and of course 25 points for the win yesterday, and 18 points for the win today. So he'll have got to 83 points. Alazari, meanwhile, will have capped 15 points. That now puts his lead on my calculations to 117. That's pretty crucial. So, eventful race 2, but it brings us the same result in terms of the same race winner. It was Matteo Colnaghi again, up to the checkered flag, taking his second win of the weekend so far. Others still hitting strife like Lucas Flusha. Gianni Alazari getting some key points on the board also, as too did Maciej Gladic and others in the mix. One more race still to go this afternoon. It is scheduled to take place at around about 3:20 UK European time. So join us if you're watching the UK or anywhere else. 2:20 UK time. It's the last race of the weekend. 30 minutes plus 1 lap. Let's see if Matteo Colnaghi can make it 3 from 3. For myself, Scott Woodquist, Alex Garcia, all of us here at Paul Ricard. Catch us later for race 3 of the Spanish F4 Championship here in France. Bye for now.